Okay, a lot of the advice you guys are getting is 5, 10, 15 years behind the mark. What can you go into to get ahead of this? AI is chomping at our Achilles tendons. And I just saw a thing that DoorDash is going to be using the Waymos, the self-driving cars in Phoenix, to deliver packages, to deliver food, to deliver other stuff. And we can see this happening, you know what I'm saying? So self-driving, whether it be, you know, guys driving Lyft or Uber, doing delivery apps and stuff like that, eventually a lot of it can start to be mechanized. Obviously, a lot of people getting laid off in the tech sector, a lot of people in distribution. Suddenly the forklifts are driving themselves. Our time has been beaten down. We have the replacement workers here. We have AI, we have the automation chomping on us. How do you get out ahead of that? And I think first you have to go back and say, well, what are you trying to do? Most men, their whole existence is to obtain and retain women. That is it. So we have this, obviously our inherent code is to, like I said, procreate and to, you know, obtain and retain women. It's like an addiction, you know, and in this world you have to pick your vices, and that's a natural vice. All this other stuff, the weed, the alcohol, all that kind of stuff, that's obviously an unnatural remedy as a coping mechanism. But at the end of the day, they're obtaining and retaining women. Even a lot of the religious stuff is just sort of this kind of like meeting ground for people to meet and to interact, and for men to meet women. That's really what it boils down to. And a lot of these guys go heavy on different game. They go heavy on religion game. You can trust me, you know. So you can kind of see through this, you know. Obviously, like when you go from a high level and it's just like, well, whose game's working and whose game is not working. And you would be surprised. Obviously, like you see the whole gamut of it. You see all sides of it. And a lot of the guys with, let's say they're more built up, or the type of guys, let's say that are, you know, college athletes right now, and, you know, they're out there cracking skulls on the gridiron and all that kind of stuff. You'd think that they're maybe the Chad and Tyrones and they're cleaning house and stuff. A lot of times they're not. They're not getting with the hot volleyball player. They're not getting with whatever, the hot cheerleader. Sometimes they are. Sometimes, a lot of times not. And I've seen this directly, and I've seen it as a coach. And what would make sense is not always what happens. So with what you're trying to do, you're trying to go to college, or you're trying to start this business, or you're going to build up this business over 10 or 15 years, or you're going to go into this or that or whatever, and you're trying to be resistant against the AIs. You're trying to get ahead, trying to live that life that we've been, you know, obviously shown so many times in social media and TV shows, movies, all that kind of stuff. Trying to get the girl, and you're trying to have the awesome car, and, you know, you're trying to do all this stuff and everything. At the end of the day, we don't really need much to kind of survive. Whatever, a couple pair of jeans, a couple t-shirts, give us a fishing rod, you know, some fruit trees, and, you know, whatever, have some chickens or something. They're gonna lay some eggs, you're gonna eat the eggs, you know, whatever, you got some guns or something, shoot some pheasants or something. It really would not take that much. A lot of the buildup, a lot of this extra stuff we're doing is to obtain and retain women. Extraction levels. Now you got us chasing this. And, you know, at the end of the day, this is going to become harder and harder. And we see it in our society right now. We see it in Japan. We see it in South Korea. The women are not impressed. A lot of times what you're doing, and I'm saying the same thing with me. I mean, check the gram. You know, it's like putting up this weight, this and that. And it's kind of one of those things. It's like, it takes so much energy, so long. I get why guys have quit. There's not really that many guys at the gym. Most have given up. They're just kind of playing video games, smoking fake weed, you know, hitting vape pens with fake weed in it. And, you know, they're just kind of as a coping mechanism. They're trying to do the bare minimum to kind of get by, because even if they made this Herculean effort, they're not really going to get anything out of it. They haven't seen the results, and they're not seeing anybody else get the results. Meager results. And the only guys that you're seeing getting what I would consider good results is you got to be at the highest levels. You got to be not only just in the MLB, but you have to be like an MLB superstar. And then it's just like you would have to have elevated game to kind of pull this off. And these guys obviously stacking additional game, you know. Let's just say like a Drew Brees type character, you know, he's stacking religion game with, you know what I mean, clean cut guy game, you know, all this kind of stuff. And then it's just like, then it kind of seems to be semi-workout for these guys. Other than that, or at least for a period of time. But for a lot of guys, or like, let's say if you watched the Netflix series that was about Nolan Ryan, it was like, well, Nolan Ryan, I mean, obviously legendary pitcher, and, you know, played for so long, you know, played for like 25 years. And, you know, it's like, yeah, he had a family and had a big ranch in Texas. And, you know, you could say, well, he had success and everything. And I mean, that's a previous generation. But right now, you're not really kind of seeing that runway for most of these guys. And what you see is if you track these people long enough, not necessarily with Nolan Ryan or something, but you see it with a lot of divorces, a lot of custody battles. I can't tell you how many times that's happened, where pretty much everybody was in some kind of weird custody battle, some kind of weird divorce situation in the United States. And that's a whole nother kind of element. So then it's just like, you could spend all this time and build up and build up and build up and think you defeated the Matrix. And then it could just take very little for that all to kind of obviously like unfold and unravel. So first and foremost, what are you trying to do? If you go to college, I would say, like, if it's not building your status, if it's not building your network, or you're not an athlete and you have game and you're leveraging that to like either get you other kind of opportunities outside of that, or obviously within there that you're, you know, working on this game and you do end up with, you know, a chick that's actually like something that's built up and is kind of like equally yoked, so to speak, then it's not really kind of like, it's not that beneficial. So if you spent 4 years in college just being a regular ass student, I just don't, I mean, you know, it's kind of like one of those things, like a lot of the wages and the salaries and stuff haven't went up for like accounting, IT, engineering for the last 20 years. And then it's like, can that quickly be replaced by IT, or they got all these H-1B workers? So is that going to be an issue? You're not really going to have something potential. I'm not saying you don't go into it. I'm just saying just think about it. And then it's like, okay, let's say you didn't go that route and everybody's kind of behind the 8 ball and they're like, you should be an electrician. You should go into HVAC. You should be a pipe fitter. You should be a plumber. That worked out for guys who went into that 20 years ago, and then they build up their business. Let's say it took them 10, 15 years to build up their business, and then right now they're getting the work. But then there's going to be this overflow of people going into the trades. So I just think there was a limited time where enough people like sort of retired from it, and then kind of the guys that had went in there when it was lower status, now they're kind of making the money, but it's still lower status. If you're going to do something that's lower status, it needs to pay you, and it needs to pay you quick. And if you're going to go to university and it's going to be some kind of like whatever it is, and it's going to take you 4 years, 5 years, you got to make sure that it's going to be like there's a little bit more of a stronger guarantee that there's not so many people in the pipeline that you're not going to have something, and that it's going to be protected by different kind of organizations and stuff. Like if you went in to be a pilot, I think you got a bit of a runway, because by the time they start having machines fly the planes, it will be automated. Obviously there's autopilot and all this kind of stuff, but they're going to want a pilot there to like take the yoke. And I think we will have that for the next 10 or 15 years. Truck drivers, same thing. One of the things I've noticed with the truck drivers, it's a lot of Arab guys, and it's a lot of like in shape, like black guys who are in their 20s. So the whole demographic's not like this kind of Santa Claus looking like guy with a beer gut that's like a white guy. That's not really the truck drivers anymore. So that whole demographic has kind of changed. Now, a lot of the profitability has probably likely been beat out of it, and that's a rough life. Your health is going to be affected. So first and foremost, your mind and your body are your best assets. So just, you know, focusing on that and doing that, then you're ahead of 95% of people. But that's not necessarily going to afford you a family. Just, you know, being in shape, being jack ripped and tan, eating right, all that kind of stuff, because the women have been told that they're in charge. I have to keep going back to that. And a lot of these women are for sale, unfortunately. The amount of the young women that are like on OnlyFans is actually like, it's absolutely absurd. And then even if they're not kind of directly on something like that, they're looking for a payout. They're looking for you to solve their problem. You know, all their debts, all their other issues. And not every chick's like that, but I mean, if 95 or 98% of the chicks are like that, they're kind of like acting like you're not, you know, you're not it. You're not it. And it's just like, okay. And then it's like, you got to keep just going. You just have to keep saying next, next, next. This becomes a major issue because there's a lot of expenditure, a lot of time, energy, even getting to the point you're interacting with people. And a lot of people have just, you know, majority of people have just kind of given up. So kind of what's the next thing? You know, being in crypto, I could just see that it was obviously, and that's going to continue. There's going to be additional waves. You can still make money on crypto. It's not gone. You know, there's still going to be markets. You can trade out and out of these different markets and stuff like that, but you have to, the competition levels went up. You have a more mature market like crypto right now. Used to be, you have to be in the top 10%. Now you got to be, and then you had to be in the kind of top 5%. Now I feel like you have to be in the top 2 or 3% to really make money in crypto. You have to be throwing bigger money around because we're not getting these multiples. We're not getting we're not getting as many of the 20x, 50x, 100x. It's still happening some, but we're not going to get as many of them. And they're going to be more rare. It's going to be harder to catch those. So, you know, that's something to kind of watch out for. Now, the prediction market thing, it kind of sort of has become kind of the new thing. So I think like you're going to have to do something very hard. And what's the things in crypto that has not really kind of been completed? The prophecy has not been fulfilled on gaming. It has not been fulfilled on the prediction markets. Like in crypto, obviously there's PolyMarket, but US market is blocked. So are you willing to make a prediction market that the US market is not blocked? And then you got these regulators potentially breathing down your throat. And you have kind of this kind of issue. So, I mean, I had the first Bitcoin ATM in Arizona, but one of the big worries for me with it was that the government was going to crack down and really make an example out of ATM operators. And they cracked down on it some, but they never came down on it crazy, crazy hard, which I'm glad that they didn't, obviously. But that being said, that was one of my worries. So in that respect, I was not willing to do that and expand the network because I felt like it was too great of a risk that you were going to end up like in this very kind of like weird kind of legal gray area to do it. So you know, and this is the unfortunate thing, you could have to compromise your freedom. I mean, look at a guy like CZ from Binance. I mean, they put the dude in Club Fed. He's not even an American. So you have the Department of Justice or whatever, like filing charges against him and put him in Club Fed. It's like, can you be an entrepreneur? Can you get out there? Can you do this stuff? Depending on the administration, like you could end up obviously like having severe financial, you know, civil penalties, civil lawsuits to fight, or you could end up in a situation, and that would be more of the case of the guy who created DSO, and then you know, the guy who had Bittrex, you know, they had SEC lawsuits against them, and there was other guys like Richard Hart that, you know, were able to defeat the SEC. Obviously now that, like, you know, the Trump administration's in and stuff like that, a lot of stuff has been put aside, but you could be compromising everything financially, and you could be compromising your freedom. We saw that again, CZ of Binance. compromise his freedom to be an entrepreneur, to try to get out ahead. And we're not really seeing CZ like walk around kind of with some dime piece. This becomes an issue. You could build up your business, become a billionaire. We don't see any of these billionaires really with any chick who's really an 8 or a 9. So think about that. It's not all about money, guys. They kind of were not developing the other elements of their game. And at the end of the day, like whatever you do, and respect, like, okay, cool, you have you know, you're an electrician or you're a plumber, you know, you have business, respect. You know, I'm not disrespecting any of that. But at the end of the day, it's just like the women in their 20s who are 8s and 9s, they're not really settling with anybody at this point. They're just kind of bebopping around, getting attention on Instagram. I asked one chick, I was like, would you choose Instagram or a boyfriend? She was like, both. And I said, no, you have to choose one. She's like, well, no, both, because, you know, it depends how I feel. They just are absorbing attention through Instagram. She wouldn't even pick. She wouldn't even pick. Most of these women will choose Instagram over having a boyfriend or a husband. They're not wife material. So this inlays the issue. You're going to have to get your money up, and you're going to have to look for greener pastures. The United States is not it. I can tell you that. And even if you geomax within the United States and you went to maybe a Tulsa, Oklahoma, or you went to some kind of niche market, I mean, again, they're all on the same Instagram. And the rest of the world too, they're connected to social media. This becomes an issue. Even if you felt like you had an additional 5, you were able to like turn back the clock like 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. You almost have to go to a place where the women are hotter on average. They're hotter on average than women in the United States, because on average, the women in the United States, and it's no diss on any individual chick, but it's like on average, the women are not that cute, not that hot on average per capita, because the diet is so bad. You even go up to Canada, the women are hotter. So you don't have to go far to see that the women are hotter other places. I'm not saying Canada is where you need to like post up, but so inlays the issue. What is the thing? You know, we hear all this stuff popping around. You know, you could do resale, you could do you do affiliate programs, drop shipping. You know, you could get in crypto, you could trade futures, you could trade Forex. You know, there's always something. You're gonna have to do something. You're gonna have to pull off something that other people are unwilling to do, and that is gonna be hard to do. You're gonna have to pull off some super sick game. What do we always see in the comment section on all these freaking YouTube videos and on Instagram? Everybody's like, oh, we got this before we got GTA 6. You're going to have to go out there and make GTA 6 some kind of iteration that would be like GTA 6 with crypto in there, so that people can earn crypto and have like a Second Life type economy in there. You're going to have to pull that off. And then you're going to be that dude, or you're going to be like the guy who like made Telegram, and they always act like the guy's like a billionaire, but I'm like, well, I don't understand what the revenue model is here. But the dude's like jacked. Dude's like Jack Krypton Tan, and he created Telegram, so he's got that status. But I mean, they threw him in jail again. The French authorities threw him in jail. So you're going to have to compromise. You're almost going to have to compromise your you're going to have to compromise your freedom, and you're going to have to kind of risk it all to maybe kind of make a name for yourself and build the status up, to then maybe have a chick that looks decent, that wants to even have a family. I mean, ask a lot of these chicks in their 20s. A lot of them don't want to have kids. So we can sit there and say, oh, it was a psyop, and this, you know, this whole thing's a freaking psyop, and this and that and the other. But that's just the fact of the matter. You're going to have to go to greener pastures. And that's the unsettling reality of it, guys. So make a prediction market that people on crypto are not blocked in certain jurisdictions. Make GTA 6 by yourself in your basement. You're going to have to pull something off. Or you're going to have to like beef up some kind of resume saying you're this and that with AI, and you know all this about neural networks, and you're going to have to get aggressive and get in front of Mark Zuckerberg and get him to pay you some kind of absurd salary. He's going to pay some dweeb like $250 million or something to come over. It's like, get out of here with that, man. Like, This is just stupid. Like, I mean, yeah, okay, it grabbed our attention, but you can't tell me that you can't hire 250 guys and pay them $1 million each, and that they would get more done than that one guy. That one guy is not gonna solve everybody's issues. Not like he's 100x more brilliant than like a smart individual who graduated from a major university. I mean, you just can't convince me of that. There's levels to things, but there becomes a point where it's like, come on. A lot of things are going to be about status, guys. You're going to have to do the status, and you're going to have to be risky. You're going to have to make some like wild moves at this point. There used to be a point, get a good job, you know, go to school, get a good job. You're going to just kind of be able to just do this kind of basic thing, and it was going to afford you sort of smooth sailing. That is over, and it is increasingly evaporating on the daily. So you're going to have to make some wild moves, do something wild. The prediction markets are a thing right now. Obviously crypto's a thing. You might have to just kind of risk maybe small amounts of money and make way out of the money bids. You might have to buy, you know, you might have to do some option trading that's like just some wild prediction. You might have to go in kind of semi-heavy on some prediction markets and try to like catch a banger. And you're going to have to build something. You're going to have to do the work, if you've got enough, to build something up, to get enough attention that it would even rival kind of your general chick's attention on Instagram. Again, the attention economy, these women think that they're way more valuable because they get inherently way more attention now. They get more attention than a queen did 300 or 400 years ago. So of course they're gassed up. Come on. But I go to the gym. There's 20 dudes building up, still building up, compared to every one chick who's trying to work out or do anything. These chicks are low performers. Don't let them drag you down. If you have to leave the country, you leave the country. You go to Brazil, you go to Argentina, you go to Croatia, you go to Poland. And I think that we all have to just kind of think that way, because it's like, what are you going to get by doing all this? I get why people have quit. So anyway, guys, that's the synopsis of the video. You're going to have to focus on attention. If you're going to go to college, it better be raising your status. Better be raising your status. You better be an athlete. Better be doing something wild there. Better be throwing huge ass parties that nobody's ever seen before. You're probably going to get arrested. And then after that, you're going to have to, you know, parlay that into your network and be balling out of control in these big cities and kind of making a name for yourself. Become a local celebrity, maybe. I don't know. Get arrested a couple times. I don't know. And then it's like you're going to have to do something that's very hard that nobody else can pull off. And you're probably going to have to compromise. You're going to have to compromise practically your freedom, you know, or your life. I mean, look at Charlie Kirk. And there's obviously huge conspiracies around that. And the whole thing doesn't make any sense. We're not getting the full story on that. But at the end of the day, he made a name for himself. And he paid with his life. You know, Martin Luther King paid with his life. You know, it's like people know their name, but it's just like it was risky. Very risky. So at the end of the day, are you guys willing to make that sacrifice, or try to pull off the impossible? Try to pull off some kind of video game, some AAA video game that is crypto, with their crypto rewards, and that the ecosystem makes sense, you know? So that's my thing. You got to be ahead of the thing. Yeah, you can be a plumber, you can be an electrician. No shame in that. No shame in hard work. You try to be a lot of these things and everything, but it's not going to have enough status associated with it for it to actually be attractive. These women don't care. These women don't care. And then you can say, well, I don't care about the women. Yeah, you do. And there's so many people subscribing to these OnlyFans girls that it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's a psyop as well. This whole Sophie Rain, I mean, yeah, she got kind of a cute face and stuff like that, but there's no way like dudes paid $43 million into that. I think that the founders of something like OnlyFans re-injected it in some of these chicks and gassed them up. And then you've got like, let's say like, you know, 5 or 10 hot girls from every high school signing up for OnlyFans, and then maybe they get some classmates or something that, you know, ended up subscribing to them. Maybe they graduated a couple years ago, and so there's just a bunch of these chicks that are making whatever 20 or 50 or 100 bucks a month or something. But you get enough of that, and obviously the flow up, and then they can take some of that money and re-inject in these chicks and stuff like that. That's all psyop. Are there a lot of simps? Yes. Don't be a simp. Do the work. It's not going to be easy, and you're going to have to pull off something crazy. You're going to have to make a name for yourself. There are going to be people coming after you. Anyway, guys, follow me on all social media, at Brian Phobos, YouTube, Instagram, Steemit, Twitter, Hive, DTube, Blur, Arena. See you guys.